Hey everybody, it's Brad with the Big Family Homestead, and there is a winter storm coming. Oh, the White Death is on the way. So I figured this would be a great opportunity to talk about winter storm preparedness. So the Weather Channel, Wonderground.com, and everybody is saying that there's right now 12 inches of snow being dumped on the folks in Montana and northern Minnesota and all that kind of stuff. And right now it's headed toward us. So we've got to get ready. There's a lot of things that we need to do. And for you, I'm hoping that this will be a reminder for you to check your preps. What's going on? Do you have everything you need to weather the storm? What if it lasted more than a day? What if your power went out? So we're going to talk about those things today, at least in our neck of the woods. Your neck of the woods may be a little bit different, but hopefully this will be one of those kind of, hey, you know what? I should really go and check my preps. So without any further ado, first things first, that is shelter. Shelter. Now, in normal survival situations, this is absolutely key. If you can't get out of the elements, you're going to be in serious trouble. And when we're talking about cold weather, I mean, we live here in mid to northern Wisconsin, and it's not uncommon to get 35 degrees below zero. Now you combine that with over a foot of snow, and you're talking serious bad juju. The question for me, the question for you is, do you have adequate shelter to get away from those extreme temperatures? Now, when I'm talking shelter, I'm also talking about heating. What are your heat sources? Do you have electric heat? Okay, great. Well, what happens if the electricity went out? Do you have a backup? That's really important. Now, one of the things I heard on a survival show, and I don't know who to truly credit, but it was kind of a prepper thing, and they were saying 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And what they mean by that is if you don't have a backup to your plan, it's like the same thing as having nothing at all. Because what if you need it? You know, what happens? Something goes wrong. So 2 is 1 and 1 is none. What are your heat sources? Do you heat with electric? Okay, well, what about maybe a kerosene heater as a backup? What about propane as a backup? What are your backups? Always make sure that when your shelter is covered, that it's also containing that important source of heat.
Water is super important. Water is life. And as you can see, our tanks are pretty dirty. So these were sitting in the barn, and we'll be cleaning these up, cleaning them out on the inside, and getting these stocked with water. We have several more of these that we're gonna have filled up and store in the basement so that if our pipes freeze or our electric goes out, then our well pump doesn't work. So we'll still have water after that. Now make sure that you have some fresh water in clean containers, unlike these, stored up in case your power goes out and you can't get water. Now I would also suggest at least 5 days worth of water, and also 1 gallon of water per person per day is what we have always been told when we lived in Florida. When there's a hurricane going around, you need to have 1 gallon of water per day per person. And that's a minimum.
Now for us, our animals are an absolute concern. You may not have, 6 cows and goats and all that kind of stuff like we have, but you may have pets. And so pet food, animal food, is absolutely important before the storm hits. Animal feed, whether it's for your livestock or whether you've got a Fifi or a Fufu or a Poofy or a cat or a kitten or a dog or whatever it is that you have. Maybe you got gerbils. I don't know if you got gerbils. Maybe you got gerbils. Maybe you like gerbils. What you don't want to be doing is realizing when the storm is hitting that you don't have food for your animals, because a lot of times people will freak out. They'll try to get to the store, and what happens is they get stranded. And you do not want to get stranded, so think about those things before the storm hits. Do you have food for your animals? Check it. Now your pipes, water pipes, are they prone to freezing? If they are, try to take some precautions in advance to go ahead and wrap them up with some insulation. There are pipe tapes that you can get. There's even pipe heaters that you can get. But what you don't want to have happen is if you know there's an issue with the pipes and the freezing, then you don't want to be in that situation where all of a sudden there's a storm and your pipes burst. Then you've got 10 times more issues than if you would have just taken a little bit of precaution beforehand. Check your pipes. Now, one of the most obvious ones is food. Make sure that you got a week's worth of food on hand, guys. You never know whether, you're going to get snowed in or something weird could happen. Electricity goes out. It goes out all the time. Make sure that you got enough food on hand at least for a week. I mean, my opinion is way, 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 way longer than that. But, have enough food on hand where you can feed yourself and your family for at least a week. And you know what? You'll never regret having it on hand. It's one of those things, it's like insurance. It's a funny thing to me because people that are not prepared-minded folks, the non-prepper people, they'll laugh at you. They'll say, you have a year's worth of food in your house? And I say, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? I've got a big family. What happens if I need to help out a neighbor? Share some food. Maybe they lose a job and I got to share some food with them, or we need to X, Y, Z. There's a million reasons why you got to have some extra food on hand. Now, that said, it's a funny thing because non-prepper people, they, like I said, they'll just laugh. They'll, oh, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. But it's kind of like insurance when you think about it. You've got homeowner's insurance, and you've got fire insurance, and you got car insurance, and you got insurance for this, and that, yet you don't have enough food on hand to feed your family for a week or two or a month. To me, that's crazy. So, make sure you got enough food on hand to at least make it a week, minimum. Now, if your house heats with, a natural gas, propane, whatever it is, the fuel source, if it's not electric, get outside and actually check. Make sure that you've got enough fuel to last for, I would say, minimum a month. Check it out, look at the levels, and make sure you're good to go. Now, another one is check to make sure that you have ready access to basic tools. Heaven forbid that you have so much snow that you're gonna have to dig your way out. But even worse is if you have to dig your way out and you don't have the right tools on hand, or you just don't even have them. Check to make sure that you got proper tools on hand. Now, fuel. Fuel is super, super important. Whether you're talking about making sure that you have enough fuel for your heat sources or cooking surfaces or your vehicles. You never know if you're gonna need to get out of Dodge, and if you didn't prepare in advance with enough fuel, you could really be in a world of hurt. So make sure that your vehicles are topped off. Check all of your sources of fuel that you're gonna need, whether it's a heat source, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a snow thrower. Check your fuel sources, make sure everything is topped off and ready to go.
So one thing that I have learned with this White Death winter we are having is make sure you're having some things to do. If the power goes out or you're stuck in the house for a long time, I like to crochet. The kids like to play board games, and Brad likes to do modeling.
Guilty as charged. I like doing these models, and obviously I like Star Wars, so I got one of these and I've been saving this for a rainy or snowy day. But the point is this, that no matter what your hobby is, maybe you like to play cards, maybe you like to play board games, doesn't really matter what it is that you like to do, but once your emergency kind of, steps are taken where you're gonna have the heat, you're gonna have food, you got water, all those things are taken care of, it can get very boring if you're stuck in your house for a week. So having something on hand to kind of keep you busy, keep your mind working, is a very, very cool and important thing. Okay, now lastly for this video is a topic that I think a lot of people kind of skim over, don't really think about it, and that is this. If you are an older person, or maybe you have a disability that's kind of keeping you in your house, make sure that somebody knows to check on you. Yeah. Whether it's family, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a neighbor, have somebody come on over, maybe during the storm if there's a storm, maybe after the storm. Think about the millions of things that could happen.
Yeah. Well, and also for you folks who know of some older folks or disabled folks that are in your neighborhood or in your area, please make sure that you do check on them.
Yeah, you don't have to be weird about it.
No.
Just basically like, hey, how's it going? Just want to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, do you need anything?
Yeah.
Let me know if you need something. So.
People slip and fall all the time, and I hate to hear it, but it seems like every year somebody slipped and fell, and because of the weather, they passed away.
Right.
And so don't let that happen. Be the person that's proactive. Call that neighbor, because they may not want to put you out. They may not want to
be a burden.
Yeah.
Right.
And so be that responsible friend, that responsible neighbor, that son or daughter.
Or that caring neighbor. Yes.
And make sure that those folks are checked on. So there are the basics. You can go in a million different directions with storm preparedness. This is a winter storm kind of thing for us. And so if you think I've missed any points, put them down in the comments section down below. And with that, I'm Brad.
I'm Krista.
And you guys have an amazing day and stay warm.